All right, so let's take this thing out for a spin. First thing I want to check out is acceleration. So we got a nice straightaway right here. No one is behind us. Let me put it all the way down to a stop. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, he's pulling out in front of us. 40, 50. I don't know, that took quite a while to get going. I felt like the car needed a lot of time to get up to speed. Let's try that one more time. But while we get to a straightaway, let's also test out acceleration while we're moving. So we're going at about 40 miles an hour right now. I'm just gonna slam down on the accelerator and see how long it takes the engine to catch up. So that was about a good 2-second delay. You hear the engine kind of rev up, and then after 2 or 3 heartbeats, then and only then did I hear or feel the car pulling us forward. Let's try that acceleration while moving one more time. So I'm gonna go around this bend. You ready? I'm gonna slam down on the accelerator. It takes a little bit of time. So it's not an instant burst of acceleration, but I mean, the car does get where you want it to go eventually. Let me get to another straightaway and we'll test out acceleration one more time. But I also want to talk about handling really quick. So as we're going through these curves at about 40, I really feel the car kind of tilting to one side and then the other. Almost like a majority of the weight is on the tires in the direction that I'm trying to turn. And then I feel the car shift back, and it's pretty dramatic. I'm not sure it makes me feel super comfortable. I think 40 miles an hour is probably the maximum speed that we can get around these curves without getting a little crazy. All right, so we have our straightaway right here again. No one's behind us. Let's come to a complete stop. Listen to the engine this time. It's really gonna strain when we want speed. And 50. So really for me, it takes a good while to get up to that 30 miles an hour range. I really feel like the car is having to work extra hard to get us speed. Which, I mean, for a car like this, that isn't that big of a deal, especially because you are getting some pretty decent fuel economy. Just don't expect a sporty feel. It's not a top-end kind of sedan or sports car. This really is sort of an economy car. And when you're driving it, that's what you should expect. All right, one more U-turn. Let's look at the turning radius together really quick. All right, so the steering is on maximum, and oof, that was easy. I made that U-turn with no problem, and I didn't drift into the other lane at all. Let me get up to 40 again, and let's do some curves. I have to admit that while we're talking about handling, I can hug the crease pretty well. On higher end sedans and vehicles, when I'm doing this road, it's almost effortless to keep the crease between the blacktop and the curb. In this one, when I kind of exit the curve, I don't feel that comfortable, because you really do have to manipulate the steering wheel quite a bit throughout the curve. So it's not like you're holding it stable and then shifting it back. You got to keep pulling and pulling and pulling. I don't know, probably not explaining that well. What I'm trying to say is that I don't feel super comfortable in this vehicle. It's almost like I need to slow down in order to make sure that I get through these turns appropriately. So all in all, I mean, look, this is not a deal breaker for me. You cannot expect sort of a high-end experience on a vehicle like this at this price point, this trim level, and this type of car. So if you're looking for the high-end driving experience, maybe look at something else. But if you're looking something affordable, comfortable, you know, maybe like a commuter to get to and from your job, this is fine. I just wouldn't call it a fun driving experience. To me, it's kind of ordinary. And if that's okay with you, then you'll probably like this vehicle. All right, so while we're on our way to the highway, let's talk about cabin noise for a second. Now I'm going, well, I'm gonna slow down for a second, but I'm going about 45, and I wanna be quiet for a second so you can kind of hear what the vehicle sounds like. So cabin noise isn't too bad. I can definitely hear the wind going through the cabin a little bit. I can hear a little bit of the traffic. but not too much. It's not obnoxious. Let me turn on the radio really quick, and let's listen to what it sounds like. Yeah, so at a low volume, that was about 8 to 10. I was fiddling with it just a little bit. I could hear what the singer was saying pretty clearly, and I didn't feel like I had to crank up the stereo really high to make out what was being said. So all in all, I think cabin noise is pretty decent at this speed. We're about 40, 50 right now. I am curious what it's like, though, once we get on the highway. I have a feeling the wind noise is going to be a lot more apparent. Alright, so thankfully there's nobody behind us. When I get through this toll booth, what I'm going to do is come to a complete stop. Oop, there's a truck behind us, so let's do this fast. Complete stop. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Accelerate all the way down to the floor. Oh, we're barely moving. Come on. Come on. You can do it. 40. 50. Come on, come on, come on. 60. 75. Woo! That took a long time to get up to speed. Alright, but I don't want to be too negative because there are a lot of positive things about this vehicle too, acceleration aside. First off, let's kind of experiment a little bit with handling at this speed. So I'm going 75 miles an hour. Let me do some lane changes. Yeah, that feels really good. I don't feel like I'm slipping at all. I barely have to manipulate the steering wheel to get into the next lane. And even at this speed, I feel like I'm in really good control of the vehicle. So handling at this speed is fine. Let's slow down just a tad. Hopefully I don't annoy the people behind us. And what I'm going to do is, when we get down to about 60, I'm going to slam down on that accelerator and see how quickly the vehicle reacts. All right, ready? 60, flooring it. 70, 75, 80. All right, so it took a little bit of time for us to coax our way all the way up to 80 miles an hour, but I mean, it's pretty good. I don't know if I would expect to be able to pass any vehicle with this kind of power, but I mean, it's doable. And you know, fuel economy is important, especially when you're buying a car like this. I guess speed isn't always what you're looking for. Let's close things out on the highway by talking about cabin noise for a second. So, as I'm sure you've been able to tell, I'm having to raise my voice a little bit because the cabin noise is a lot more apparent. Let me be quiet for just a second so you can get kind of a full taste. So that's pretty loud. I mean, I can hear the cars around us pretty apparently. You definitely hear the wind kind of pushing through the vehicle a little bit. Let's turn on the radio again and see what that's like. Alright, so this is at 11. I can't really tell what the guy is saying. Let me turn it up a little bit. Alright, it's a little better. So that was about 20. So, I mean, that's not great. That means if you are on the highway, because I was only going 65, 70 miles an hour. If you are on the highway with this vehicle, you are going to have to crank up the sound quite a bit to be able to hear anything over the entertainment features. But I don't know. I don't know if that's a deal breaker for me. You know, when you get cost and fuel economy and reliability of this vehicle, those three things add up to a lot of good things in my book. So really, it's going to be about personal preference. I mean, what's important to you, and is what's on this vehicle good enough for what you're looking for? All right, so the last thing I want to look at is handling at low speeds, and what I mean is just what it's like to tool around a parking lot in this vehicle. So let's do a couple of things. First, let's park it. Let's go around a couple of these medians, and then let's play around with the backward-facing camera real quick. So first off, let's park it. I gotta say, it takes a lot of manipulation on the steering wheel to go through some of these tight turns. Parking it is, I mean, it's fine. Honestly, I've driven probably 300 of these rentals so far, and I've never had a problem parking a vehicle. What I do like to note, though, is what the actual steering feels like. And, well, watch for a second. When we're going straight and I want to turn, it takes quite a bit of angle before the car will actually move. So I'm having to go probably 45 degrees before the car is actually going to steer. So watch real quick. So see, when I'm doing these little bits, you're not really getting much motion, and now I'm actually moving. It's just a lot looser than I tend to like on my vehicles. I like that it's really tight handling and that it takes just a little bit of muscle to move the vehicle. And this feels really light and I don't know, a little too light for my opinion. Let me show you. Let me go around one of these medians real quick. So I'm gonna manipulate the steering wheel. Look at that, almost all the way around, 180 degrees. Yeah, I just don't like it. You might feel differently. We all have our different preferences. I'm just trying to give you a gauge for what this vehicle is like. Let's shift it into reverse. You do get a rear view camera with some guides right there. The guides don't move though. In a lot of vehicles, when you manipulate the steering wheel, you'll see the guides move to try to show you where the car is gonna go, but you don't get that feature on this vehicle. You do get a red line here, and the car will let you know if you're getting close to an obstruction. So let me back up and see if it'll sense this curb. Nothing. The radar didn't even pick it up. Let's try with something else. Let's back up into this loading bay. There's nobody here, so they probably won't notice. And let's see if the car can sense the big garage door right there and let us know that we're getting really close. All right, so throwing it into reverse, we see our backup camera, and let's see if I can manipulate the vehicle into the loading dock without causing any problems. Okay, so I think I got it lined up. Let's get closer and see if we have any radar telling us that we're getting close to an obstruction. Nothing. So I misspoke. I guess we don't get any kind of sonar to let us know if we're not parking the vehicle very well. That's a little bit disappointing. Personally, I don't think that's a high-end feature. It's something that I've seen on a lot of vehicles cheaper than this one. So, well, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. If this is your full-time vehicle, probably parking it is going to be a breeze and you don't have to worry about stuff like this. But for someone like me that's renting and driving a lot of different vehicles, I kind of like having a little bit of assistance when I'm parking. So, I don't know. A little bit disappointed in this one. So one more thing about driving I want to mention is visibility at both the front and the rear. So I don't know if you can tell, but the distance between the rear view mirror and the top of the center display is actually pretty small. I can actually touch both with my hand pretty easily. And I notice this a lot when I'm trying to make right-hand turns, because you have to look through this little gap as you're going around a bend to try and see any obstructions. And it's just not ideal. I'm sure, given some time, you'll get used to it, but I find myself feeling a little bit uncomfortable while I was driving and trying to look in that direction. Also, visibility out the rear of the rear window isn't great either. You can see it, those black headrests really do take up a lot of space and make it really hard to see kind of in the corners while you're reversing. And this rear view camera, although it is helpful, if you notice, it's not a super wide view, which makes it just that much more harder to see while you're reversing. Again, is this a deal breaker? Absolutely not. But it's something I just want to share with you while we're talking about stuff like this. All right, so that's it for the test drive. I hope you join me next time when I take a more detailed look at the interior and some of the other fun features on this vehicle. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.